Welcome to the Pindown, your Detroit Pistons podcast. I'm your host, Wes Davenport from Motor City Hoops and Detroit Bad Boys.
And I'm Blake Silverman, writer for Detroit Bad Boys, covering everything from the Pistons to the NBA draft and the Motor City Cruise.
Blake, I know we usually make the joke that we're terrible luck for this Pistons team, but oh my, were we awful luck for this. But we even rescheduled this recording so that we could go on Friday and make sure we get the game in. And then lo and behold, they drop one to the Wizards.
Yeah, that's if we thought that we were bad luck, like that game is definitely a surefire to know that we actually are on certain points. No matter how hot this team is, I feel like we find a way. And yeah, it's hard to beat the same NBA team 2 times in a row, even if they are the Washington Wizards. So we should have known better. But we're still here, and we got still one of the hottest teams in basketball for the stretch of the season. Like, we'll be able to record after some wins coming up here, I feel like.
Oh, for sure. I mean, this Thunder game is going to be interesting on Saturday, but we're not, we're just dropping the podcast that morning. We're not recording after, so we should be out of the range of bad luck there. Usual stuff, guys. Thank you. One, if you're tuning in live, we always appreciate all of that. Leave the like, subscribe, all that good stuff helps us grow. Do the same thing with the actual podcast streams on Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening. I think actually now you can leave a comment on Spotify, so that's cool. If you want, do that. We'll read it. Maybe we'll even read it on the show. I don't know. We do that with the Pistons Pulse, and I don't track the comments as closely on this show as I do that one, but maybe I will. I mean, if you guys listeners start commenting a bunch, I don't know, we can read it out, right? What's the harm?
Yeah, why not? Even if it's constructive criticism or whatever it might be.
Sometimes those are the most fun ones to read out.
And
if it's not constructive, you can just laugh at it.
Yeah, 100%. But no, that's good to know, because I'll leave reviews to help support the shows that I listen to, and I feel like they just go into the abyss. So I gotta start leaving some comments on different Spotify podcasts. It'll definitely be fun. Leave us a comment. We'll definitely get to it once it's there. And
of course, drop us a line. Call up the voicemail line, leave us a voicemail, we'll play it on the show, all that good stuff. Again, that is, I know we keep saying it, we haven't got one in a little bit, but I'm hoping to manifest it. That's one of my favorite little things that we get to do, to actually hear your guys' voices. But anyway, let's dive in. Let's talk about that Wizards game. It was a 129-125 loss. At one point there, late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, it kind of looked like Detroit had this one in the bag, and it slipped away. Obviously, Keyshawn George had some really big time buckets there down the stretch, and Marcus Smart had one heck of a game for the Wizards. So, it was just some general takeaways you had from this one, and obviously Cade had a heck of a night, so we can start there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you could even say that it wasn't the best Cade Cunningham game you've ever seen, which is crazy because he had 38 points and 10 assists and got to the line more than he's ever got before, 20 for 21 from the line. And he did that when he was 0 for 7 from 3, did not find the shot at all from downtown, which we've seen some ups and downs there. And obviously, if he could have knocked down a couple of those, we'd be having a totally different conversation right now. But he still controlled the game, was the best player on the court. And I thought at the end, Tim Hardaway Jr. did get a couple good looks, one to tie it and one to cut it to 1. So I feel like that was all you could really ask for. I thought the Wizards controlled the game for the most part. The Pistons go on that run, get the lead, and then they're just not able to finish the job. So, Wes, I know you posted about this, but it is tough just to, when you have the back-to-back against the same team, it's tough to beat the same team 2 times in a row. And I feel like there's no better example of that than this, because we are talking about the Washington Wizards, who are either going to have the worst record in the NBA or the second worst record, depending out on how them and the Utah Jazz pillow fight towards the end of the season. But they're still not a rollover team like we saw. They have some good veterans that they recently brought in, Marcus Smart and Chris Middleton, and their rookies like Alex Sarr looked incredible both as a defender, and he was making some shots too. And Keyshawn George didn't do a lot during the game, but knocked down those couple big buckets. So it was just a tough one overall. I felt like even when the Pistons slowed down someone on Washington who had it going, then someone else started to make shots, and they really just couldn't miss, which is going to happen sometimes. And obviously, when you're jockeying for playoff positioning, the 4 through 6 seeds are such a close race. The Pistons don't have a tiebreaker. That's a game that you want to get, but at the same time, it's not. It definitely don't need to panic or anything like that.
Oh, absolutely not. Yeah, no need to panic. Before I even add on though, I've never heard the race for the bottom in the standings called a pillow fight before, and that is awesome. Can I steal
Uh,
that? That is hilarious.
Of course, and I'll tell you why I have that term in my arsenal. So I'm college basketball. I'm a St. Bonaventure fan, and how they're in the Atlantic 10 conference. How the Atlantic 10 tournament works is there's like the top 4 seeds get double buys into the quarterfinals. The next 4 get one bye into the second round, and then there's 4 first round games between like the 9 and 15 seeds or whatever it is. And instead of calling it the first round, it's known on Atlantic 10 Twitter, which is a crazy place, as the A10 pillow fights.
That is awesome. I love that. Hey, out of curiosity, George Mason interesting? I know they got a player that's solid, the Billups kid, right?
Yeah, and I was actually watching a bit of their game, or it looks like they won today. Yeah, they're the 2 seed in the conference. So on to the semifinals. They have a shot to make a run to the tournament. If
Love it.
VCU will be tough if they see them in the championship, but they got a better shot than anyone besides VCU, I'd say.
Sweet. Okay, cool. I'm only interested. That's where I got my my master's degree. So I have a passing interest in George Mason basketball, though
You
not
got a
all
squad
that
to root
much, to
for.
be honest. Yeah, follow it loosely. But anyway, getting back to that Wizards game, 100% right. Like the first game, if they lost that, that was a handle your business type of game. Okay, that was the game where if the Pistons lose it, maybe we could be having a little bit of the conversation of, uh-oh, is the pressure getting to them? Is this going to be a really big learning experience? So on down the line. But we don't need to have that conversation. And here's why. It's exactly what you just said. It is incredibly difficult to beat the same team twice in a row with no other games split out in between. The Pistons, I mean, there wasn't even travel here involved with
Mhm.
this one. Okay. The Pistons played the Wizards at home, day off, played the Wizards again at home. This second game was always going to be a tough game. Why I think there's a little bit of valid disappointment in the outcome here is that they did have a lead there in the fourth quarter. So there's a slip up of an opportunity, right? But look at this much more like that Golden State game, right? Or that Clippers game where they could have won it. It was within reach, but it slipped away and they didn't actually get to pull out the victory in the end, which is going to happen. They're not going to win all 82, right? So there's going to be kind of letdown games like that built in, and you just have to accept that. But this is not, oh gosh, they lost to the 14 win Wizards team and that's a huge problem and it's just because they didn't come out focused or whatever. No, the Wizards were going to come out and give an even better shot than what they did on Tuesday. They were going to come out with more information, more knowledge, more fight, more drive, right? You don't want to, it's embarrassing to lose twice in a row. And these are all NBA players. These are all some of the best players in the world, bar none. Okay. So, I mean, I can't say that. This was always going to be a very difficult game to win. this was always going to be a tough out, even though it's Washington. We'd be saying this if it was Utah too. Doesn't matter the team. When the Pistons had back-to-back games, we talked about this a couple seasons ago because we were trying, or last season actually, I think it was, because we were trying to figure out where the losing streak would end, right? And I think they had a back-to-back against the Jazz, and we had circled that as, hey, maybe, because even though they're terrible, it is a very difficult job to beat an NBA team twice in a row. I'm not worried about this one. It doesn't sound like you're worried about this one. I don't think that there's no problem here. This is just a game that they lost that they could have not should have won, could have won.
Yeah, for sure. Like I again felt like Washington mostly had control on this one, which when you are in a conversation for a 4 seed is probably an issue. Like you shouldn't be playing their game, but at the same time, just how the schedule fell. Um, excuse me, and also it's getting to that point of the season where excuse me, had a bug in my throat there, but it's getting to the point of the season where we're seeing a lot of teams shut guys down, trot out uh, lineups that aren't NBA lineups. Like Wes, we were talking before we got on about the Philadelphia 76ers. If those of you listening like haven't seen their available roster and their starters tonight, we're recording this on Friday night, go look at it, because that's just not their team. They don't have anyone available. I bring that up to say Washington pretty much had everyone available, and they have a group of 3 rookies who are playing important minutes in their career right now, like trying to build on something and go move forward, end the season on a high note. Obviously, they want to be in the draft conversation and hope they get Cooper Flag, but they're playing for something to like make a name for themselves in this league. And then you pair that with having the Chris Middletons, you have a Jordan Poole who got hot from 3 there for a second, and also like Marcus Smart too, who all the health issues he's had is still will come in and be a heck of a perimeter defender and give you fits. And they were able to uh, minimize like what the Pistons were trying to do at points. So I don't think like uh, the Pistons didn't get Washington's like, okay, let's get to the end of the season. We don't care if we win or lose lineup. Like they're still at a point where it's been a horrible season and they're trying to find wins as well. And like how I've talked about before, the Pistons are scary going into the playoffs because they really have nothing to lose. Like Washington's at their point of the season where they have nothing to lose, which is a scary opponent to go up against, no matter who the team is.
Yeah, for sure. And I am the big cheese brings up says that the Pistons are not great at taking on teams that want revenge. Brings up the Pacers, the Wizards, the Clippers, and that's all fair. I'm not going to say that that's wrong. I think that that's right. But the question that I want to throw back at you, Blake, and then any listeners as well, just playing along at home. But like, look at the teams around the Pistons right now in the standings in the East. You got the Bucks, the Pacers, the Hawks, Magic, Heat, and then maybe loosely the Bulls. Any of those teams really great at playing other teams that have kind of a bone to pick with them on any given night?
I don't think so.
No, they're not. Yeah, I agree. They aren't. The teams that are consistently able to weather that storm are up at the top. They're the Knicks, they're the Celtics, they're the Cavs, they're the Thunder, the Warriors in years past, most LeBron James led teams. Like those are the elite teams. That's my only point. So I don't think it should be all that shocking that look, this was like we keep saying, this was going to be a tough game and they could have won it. So it's disappointing, but they weren't in a position where they should have won it. And I do think that that's a good line to draw. I wanted to make one last point before getting into questions, just a little bit of comedy because it made me laugh. Free throws and the foul discrepancy has been a big conversation in the Pistons verse, right? In the Pistons world these past few weeks, maybe even a month now at this point. Cade Cunningham, career high 21 free throw attempts. You had the Pistons as a team. They shot 43 The Wizards only shot 27. No one's really complaining about the fouls here. In fact, if you listen to JB Bickerstaff, well, they were all justified. There was nothing going on there at all. So, that's a little bit of irony. Made me laugh.
Yeah, I thought it was a great quote from JB where I
It was
think it was
so good. Yeah.
Omari asked him about it, and JB was just like, "Yeah, Cade got fouled." So
Yeah, they kept fouling him, right? I think that was the quote. Because Amari asked
yeah,
him, what did Cade do to keep getting the good whistle? And his response was, well, they just kept fouling him.
yeah, that's a great one, and yeah, I don't think that we're gonna see anything close to that number night in and night out, but at least for one
No,
night,
of course not.
yeah, even though it didn't result in a win or anything, and it was against the Washington Wizards, Cade did sort of turn into that free throw merchant that I think, even though some people don't like that game, I think it's there's like a case for Cade to be able to play that game. And even though, like, personally, I don't want him to play that game, I guess it was nice to see that it is possible for one night. And he's not, at least last night, wasn't getting a lackluster whistle like has been a complaint fairly recently, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, on a serious note, I do kind of think that I think since maybe since the All-Star break, maybe a little bit after the All-Star break, it does seem to me that Cade is more intentionally seeking contact, seeking whistles to go on and get free throws, which let's be honest, that's a really good development for him. So the fact that he was able to have a game like this where he did get up to 21 free throw attempts in a game, he also made 20, which that shouldn't go unnoted. That's fantastic. But the fact that it's now starting to bear a little bit of fruit, the fact that he is trying to draw the fouls instead of get fouled, if that makes sense, that little split there. So being more like a Trae Young instead of the player that he had been the past few years, that's ostensibly that's a good thing. And it's coming at a great time too. That's going to be really valuable in the playoffs when the pace slows down a little bit, and you are going to be relying much more on Cade in the half court as a creator. So if things are breaking down, if he can pretty consistently get to the line, not to the tune of 20, right, but maybe 7, 8, 9 in a playoff series, that would be huge. So I do genuinely think it's a good thing. It was just the stark contrast of the comments that happened after that Clippers game and then the comments after this Wizards game made me laugh.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I mean, to the Pistons' next game is against the Oklahoma City Thunder
With
and
SGA.
Shea, so I can sense a little free throw discrepancy coming there. So we can see what the discourse is with that, but it's nice to see that Cade can go into that, where I felt like the Wizards were trying to take away other parts of his game and being like, someone else go and beat us. And Cade got to the line more than he ever has before. And he ended up with 38 and 10, which is a crazy night. Obviously didn't result in a win in this case, but he wasn't just totally removed from the game, which I think was the Wizards' game plan.
Yeah, I mean, again, right? You had an off night from the floor. He was only 9 of 25. I think he was 0 for 7 from
Hmm.
three. Like, not his great night, not his best night putting the ball in the basket, but his ability then to get to the free throw line and make plays for others meant that even with the fairly impactful defense guys like Marcus Smart were playing against him, he was still incredibly impactful. He was still a net positive on the game, I think. So, yeah, I mean, good outcome here for Cade. I wanted to get to this question here from Rames first because it's actually a bit of a combo question with the big cheese. So let's talk about Ausar Thompson for a second. Rames wants to know. He says that Ausar Thompson has been much less effective on almost all fronts over the past 5 games or so. Is that a foul trouble problem that's going to explain most of it? Is it fatigue? Has his role changed since Dennis Schroeder got brought on board where now maybe he's handling the ball less? Why do you think that Ausar Thompson has been just a bit less effective in the box score?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a little, I mean, definitely a cop out answer, but I think it's a little bit of a combination. If I had to pick one thing that is leading leading to it the most, I would say the foul trouble, honestly. I mean, you look at his last 5 games, 3 of them he was ended with between 4 and 5 fouls, and then at other times and within those games as well, he picked up some fouls early and wasn't able to play as many minutes. Like if you remove that Clippers game where the Pistons lost, he's played between 18 and 21 minutes in his past 4 games. And I do think that is mainly due to the foul trouble. But also it might be a bit of like this this period we're talking about happens right after JB Bickerstaff goes on the record and say he doesn't have a minutes restriction or anything like that. So maybe it is a bit of like getting used to more minutes as well and playing alongside Dennis Schroeder at times, not having as many on ball opportunities. But I do think most of it is with the foul trouble, which is impacting his availability in the game and just makes it difficult to get going.
I'm going to actually disagree just a little bit because I do think foul trouble is part of the minutes decrease. I just don't think it's all of it. Let me read this off. So he actually had a pretty good game just the other night in the second game against Washington, where he was 4 of 6 from the floor, and he actually made a 3-pointer. But here are the 4 games that preceded that: 3 for 8, 2 for 5, 2 for 6, 5 for 13, and 0 for 2 over that whole 4-game span from 3. He's just not making shots. I think he's getting more or less the same looks that he was getting right before and right after the All-Star break. I don't think that he's necessarily not handling the ball as much as he was, because he's really not playing too many minutes next to Dennis Schroeder. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but I don't believe that he is. So most of this is still coming next to Cade. Most of this is still Ausar Thompson being that pressure release guy, right? So he's bringing the ball up. He's making the first pass if they're pressuring Cade. Otherwise, it's more of a transition-based role. None of that's really changed. The shots that he's taking, not really changed outside of the fact that he's actually taken 3 3-point attempts over the past 5 games. Something to monitor, because when he was playing his best, he was not taking any, right? So teams have clearly shifted a little bit the way that they are defending the Pistons with these 2 non-shooters out there. Something to track, not a problem yet, but just to be aware of. To me, he is just simply not making the shots that he was earlier. And because of that, it's a lot harder to play him. When he's 2 for 5 and all of his shots are coming within 10 feet of the hoop, I get that he's a great defender, but it is tough to get that guy's minutes up to 30, right? Like, how are you going to play a player who is not impactful on offense? Over the span, too, assists have really dropped. 1 assist against the Wizards, 1 against the Wizards again, 2, 0, 1. He only has 5 assists in the past 5 games. Like, he's just not capitalizing on his opportunities at the rate that he was before. So I'll let you respond to that, but then this really ties into a question that I Am the Big Cheese asked in our live comments.
Yeah, I mean, I think and if you back this out to what he was doing before, like you can go even further than I'm going, but the 6 games before this past 5 game stretch, the lowest he shot from the field on in any given game was 50%, and that stretch includes a 7 for 8 game, a 7 for 7 game, 6 for 9, so 5 for
And
7
it's
as
not like his
well.
shot attempts are really different materially either.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I think that is a little bit too, but maybe just at points it is difficult for him to get going, and then it sort of just snowballs from there.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this has always been the question with Asar, right? You never question his defensive ability. You never question his defensive impact. The problem is always if you're going to play him with another non-shooting big. Can he do something on the offensive end to kind of justify the minutes? Otherwise, it gets really difficult to find him rotation minutes when, or at least at volume, right? It doesn't get difficult to get him into the rotation. I don't mean to put it that way. I shouldn't have said it that way. So I apologize for that. What I mean is get him to like 30, right? Get him to that quantity of minutes that we were all wanting him to be at back when he was really hot right before the All-Star break. And he was such an impactful player because he was scoring well in transition. He was finishing his cuts, and he was still that incredible defender that he's always been. But now the offense has kind of gone away. So like I don't think we can blame JB for cranking his minutes all the way down to around 20 right now. If he's not, and it maybe you're right. This could just be a game flow thing. So he's getting into early foul trouble. He's getting pulled from the game and has to sit an extended period of time. And it's tough to get into that rhythm again once you check back into the game. That absolutely could be the problem here. No question. That could be it. Even if it is, it's really tough to play him a big load of minutes if he's not going to be in a rhythm offensively and he's missing those little, reverse layups that he keeps taking, and he's missing the contact Euro steps in transition. Like, he's got to fix that. He's got to get back in rhythm.
Yeah, 100%.
Well, all right. So related to that, this is from I Am the Big Cheese. It says, how can Ausar Thompson improve as a finisher? And now, like you have already mentioned, the foul trouble could be part of that. So we'll just leave that aside for the moment. And I do want to say that I thought he played very well outside of his foul trouble against the Wizards on Thursday night. So we could, I guess you could maybe see, is there anything he did in that game that he maybe didn't do against, say, the Clippers, where he went 5 for 13?
Yeah, well, I think overall and just because of the player he is and how his game is, I think he has to take a decent amount of gambles. And by that, I mean going aggressively for offensive rebounds, for tip-ins, just letting his athleticism win, essentially. But if you like look at his shot attempts, a lot of the misses are coming from near the hoop, but like just outside of the cylinder. And a lot of his makes are coming right at the rim, whether it's a layup or a dunk, whatever it might be. And it's tough to get to the rim. Like, that's a skill that I think we know he's capable of, but obviously, certain matchups don't lend itself to that. And I think like how Alex Sarr was playing for the Wizards definitely made that difficult for everyone, not just a Sarr. But I think he just needs to play more. I guess the word is like intently in terms of the risks that he has to take in getting to the rim and finding those opportunities, because I think he almost has to be a little bit more creative than really anyone else because of his shooting limitations and because he has this insane athleticism that allows him to play above the rim, play above like a lot of players in this league. It's just like, how do you get a clear look right at the rim, which I don't think is an easy thing for someone who's not a big. And like, maybe he can act as a pseudo big at times, but that's just not the type of player archetype that he is. So I think it's just finding ways to get clean looks as close to the rim as possible, because when I don't think it's necessarily like settling, but if he does take a look from within the paint but not right at the rim, like he's had trouble connecting on those as of recent.
Yeah, and he's always been a little bit of a question mark with his touch around the rim. So that's always, I mean, that touch is really difficult to improve. So this may just generally be a limitation that he has with his finishing. As we saw as recently as just a few weeks ago, that doesn't mean he can't still be a good finisher and still shoot a higher percentage from the floor. So I'm with you. I think it's about the intent. I think it's about him just capitalizing on the opportunities he does get. And the only thing I'd really add, the only two things I'd really add is this isn't, I don't have the numbers to back this up, but it feels like we haven't seen him be as impactful or as decisive as a cutter over these past 5 games.
Yeah.
He was really excelling at that previously, especially with Jalen Duren, actually, with Duren up on maybe the elbow or near the top of the key. Ausar had gotten pretty adept at going on a baseline cut. Now, it's possible that the defenses have kind of become aware of that, right? But that just means he needs to find other spots to unleash that talent he has as a cutter. So I think that's something I really want to see from him more. And then as well, you mentioned getting from slightly out of the restricted area to all the way into the restricted area with his finishes. I'd like to see him play a little bit more bully ball. I mean, he's a guy that he doesn't have, as we said, he doesn't have a ton of touch, a ton of that soft touch around the rim with his finishes, which show up with those reverses. He doesn't have the most wiggle in his hips as a ball handler. He can change direction and change speed really well. So he's been able to leverage that in and out cross beautifully. It's really fun to watch, but he's not a guy that's going to, squirm through traffic or anything like that. That's more of his brother's game. So I almost wish we could see him maybe take a page out of like Julius Randle's book every now and then, put the shoulder down and see how much space he can just eat into when he gets a guy trying to stop his progress to the rim. And obviously you don't want to draw a ton of charges with that, so we got to be careful. But I think if he can get his defender off balance a little bit with the cut, with crossover, with the spin move, out of the kind of mid-range space like he's been doing in these past few games, and then finish maybe with a harder jump stop and exploding through instead of trying to Euro step or squirm around for a scoop finish or a reverse, I do think that would benefit him quite a bit. I'd like to see that more.
Yeah, and what you said about like cutting and I think his movement off the ball like might just be our answer here because he has the luxury, and maybe it's not a luxury because it's because of his current weaknesses or limitations as a player, but he's not gonna get like face guarded off the ball really ever. Like I was watching the Warriors and Kings last night, and like the Kings were glued to Steph Curry because he was about to make his 4,003, and like they just weren't letting him get anywhere. And like, yes, I'm talking about the greatest shooter of all time versus one of, I'm sorry, Asar, but like one of the worst shooters in the NBA right now for his position. But I say that to say like Steph Curry is such a good off-ball mover that like I could see Asar having that creativeness to navigate defenses when there are two defenders who are prioritizing Cade and trying to get the ball out of his hands to create some easy looks. So like I think we've seen it before too. Like Asar does have those opportunities to clearly get to the hoop and get an easy finish off a nice cut. And I feel like that just hasn't been happening as much. And like maybe it is back to the foul trouble or just some like confidence things with like not seeing his looks drop immediately. But I think that's like again going to the intent of it. Like that's something he can go into games with and be like, I'm gonna create a look for myself by how I move off the ball, just because I have the freedom to do so.
So we got a great question here from Epic Wayne in the DBB comments. He says that the Pistons have been able to generate a lot of offense in transition. In fact, they are one of the best transition teams in the NBA right now. However, an issue with this is, and that has been the case with other transition reliant teams in the past, is they kind of get hampered a bit in the playoffs. He's right. This is something that you can see throughout NBA history. You have teams that really excel in transition in the regular season, and then when we get into the playoffs, pace slows down a little bit. It's a little bit more half court focus. Refs tighten up that. They don't. Sorry, they don't tighten up the whistle. They loosen up the whistle just a little bit, allow a little bit more of that physical play, and all of a sudden, those teams that were running in transition all night now can't. They just don't have as many opportunities to do so, and it hampers their offense. Do you think this is something the Pistons need to be worried about right now? I mean, they are a playoff team at this point, so is this something to monitor?
I definitely think it's something to monitor because it's just like a totally valid concern. And I will like I don't think this is a complete answer because it's the other side of the ball, but like the Pistons defense has been really good lately, and I think that will help them sort of offset some of the pace slowing down and having to play more in the half court, not having as many more opportunities to run. But if they are able to play at the level they are defensively right now, I think they will have some opportunities where they get some deflections, they find a turnover in the open court and are then available to get out and run. I don't think it will be as easy by any means, but I do think the slow down pace and the loosen up whistle will like help them on the defensive side a little bit more, which might allow them to get out into transition. But again, I think this is like a totally valid concern because offensively, when we've seen them at their best, it is when they're able to get out and run and catch teams off guard, and that may not as freely happen in the playoffs as it has been in the regular season. So adjusted game plan for sure, and just like I think it's not really on JB, but I think the players just need to take more of a they just need to be sure to prioritize getting forcing turnovers so they are able to play their game a little bit more.
The other equalizer is probably Cade Cunningham, right? I mean, I agree with you. I think that this is a concern. This is something that is almost for sure going to happen, right?
Right.
We are almost certainly going to see the Pistons not have as much access to their transition offense as they do in the regular season. So the defense can help. The other equalizer might just be Cade Cunningham. He is obviously adept in the pick and roll. He's a good isolation basketball player as well. He can shoot. He can pull up from mid range, which is going to be more valuable in the playoffs too. And on top of all of that, you have this player that excels in transition, excels in the half court, who also just so happens to be likely the best player on the court in a first round series. As long as they're not playing the Bucks, I think you could say
Right.
that confidently.
Yep.
So, how much does that level this playing field? Do you think? I mean, is it enough to maybe say we should not like put the concern away, but feel more or less comfortable, even knowing that this is a reality, or is it still something we're pretty worried about?
No, I think that's a good point as well. Just like if they are able to get in the pick and roll game, whether it's Caden Duran, if they use Asar a little bit more as uh, setting screens and as a roller, like I think they have we've seen it over the regular season, like the ability to still find just ways to manipulate defenses as well, and it all really starts with Cade. Like he's one of those players that is going to generate so much attention that he will be able to free up looks near the rim, whether it's for Jalen Duran, Asar, or whoever else it might be. So yeah, I think that's a great point too, and especially depending on the opponent, like align with you unless it's the Bucks, like Cade's gonna be the best player on the court, which like oftentimes that matters a lot in the playoffs. And it's like crazy to think that we're thinking about the Pistons as having that guy against a team like the Knicks, a team like the Indiana Pacers, who made a run to the conference finals last year. And I think he has that ability to take over and really get what he wants. And like those are the players that typically find ways to win playoff games.
He's going to have to prove it, right? I mean, it all
Hmm.
sounds good on paper, and he's going to be possibly even all NBA second team. Like he's proving it during the regular season, but he's going to have to prove it in the playoffs. So
Hmm.
all this is to say, I think if you're as a fan really worried about this, one, justified, right, to be worried about it. But if you're looking for any comfort here, it would be that the reason for my money that the Pistons are able to win slow, grinded out games against teams like the Clippers and then also get into barn burners against the Hawks and come out on top as well. The reason that the Pistons are so flexible in the types of games they can win is in large part because Cade Cunningham is really flexible in the types of games he excels at. There's really not a pace of play here where he's not getting to his averages or at least close to it, right? It's very rare that he has a game where he's effectively held down, so to speak. So I think that if you want comfort, that should be a little bit comforting. Let's get to this one. Was a good question here. This was ID Lion 39. Hopefully I said that username right. I couldn't really tell. I just went for it. But this is DBB comments. He says, "What are the chances that Malik Beasley re-signs with the Pistons next year? And then what are the chances that when he does, he produces an equivalent or better season to what he's done this year?" So this is a great little two-parter.
It is. For the first part, in terms of like the chances that he re-signs, I mean, I think that this almost has to be priority number one of the offseason. I know you have decisions to make with Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren in terms of whether you're going to give them extensions, but what Malik Beasley has brought to this team is what this team has been looking for years. And they have this guy who has been leading the NBA in 3 pointers made at points, and has said himself that he wants to be here. I believe he said he wants to like be a Piston for life. So like that's a guy that you have to do whatever you can to bring him back. And I know that there are some uh, cap gymnastics that have to be done to do so. Specifically, I believe with like the order of operations, depending if the Pistons are going to end up over the cap or if they're going to sign him with cap space and remain under the cap. So it might be a situation where Beasley doesn't re-sign until the rest of the moves are made and Trajan's cap guy figures out how they're going to have everything on their books for next season. And I know that there is only a certain amount that the Pistons can pay him, but I believe the only team right now that is going to have a ton of cap space to sign him is the Nets. And I don't really think that they like, I mean, really any team would be interested in Malik Beasley's services, but where the Nets are right now, I don't think he'd want to go there. I don't think they'd really have much need to sign him to a big contract. So I think the chances of him remaining in Detroit are pretty high, but I temper that with like he's having a career year right now, and I wouldn't expect him to do what he's doing year in and year out. Like he's shooting over 42% from three, and he did that in I think it was the first season that he did that. He did it when he was traded to Minnesota, with Minnesota in the middle of a season, but that's a much smaller sample size. Um, so he's like doing things that he's never done before. He comes in, breaks the Pistons single season 3 point record, like with a ton of games to spare. I don't think you're going to see a dramatic drop off. Like he's only 28. He fits in with what this team needs. He's in his ninth season in the NBA, so he gives them that veteran presence who's been huge for the locker room and like honestly also been huge for like the fans engagement and like just everything that he brings to this team, like I feel like it's almost invaluable, and I think he's well deserving of whatever the contract is going to be that he's going to get. So I think you have to do what you can to lock him down, and like don't expect him to shoot 42% from 3 again on like the volume that he is putting up on a nightly basis, but I think you can still expect one of the best three-point shooters in the league paired with a guy who also is competing on defense when I didn't expect him to compete that much on defense coming into the season, and then everything else he does like as a leader in this locker room.
Yeah, the volume thing was what I wanted to bring up, because it's not just that he's shooting the lights out in terms of percentage. It's the quantity that he's taking and making as well. He's not only having a
9.3
career.
attempts a game
Yeah, he's
this
not
year.
only having a career year, he's having a historic type season as a shooter. He's doing stuff right now that puts him in a range of, things only really done by Steph Curry. Like, he's having an incredible year. So I'm with you. I think you stop short of expecting historical output on a year to year basis from a guy who's coming off the bench. So I think I agree. I think that he comes back. Odds are pretty good that Malik Beasley will re-sign and that the Pistons want to re-sign him. I think that is a good shot. Not at any price, right? There's a high level limit there, but I I really want, but I also think that they'll be able to come to a mutually beneficial agreement. Both parties want the relationship to continue. So hopefully that's a really good sign forward. But in terms of expecting him to even do what he's done again, not let alone better. I mean, if he gets somehow better than this, that's something else. If he can outdo what he's done this year, I think he's going to be a really, really good shooter. And like you said, a guy that competes on defense, even if he's not a plus defender. He's a leader for the team. He's a leader for the face of the team, right? The public facing aspect of Pistons basketball that the fans get to latch onto. He's a guy that loves being around here. He's got the swagger. He does the little shimmy stuff. I think that you're hoping, and you can be really confident that you're going to get all of that still next year, whether or not he's tying his record that he'll set this year for most franchise three-pointers in a season while shooting 43%. Maybe not. How about like 38 to 40%? That seems like a reasonable expectation.
Yeah, and just to add like credence slash numbers to the historic thing that you mentioned, like all Pistons fans saw this, but a few weeks ago, Zach Lowe tweeted only one player in NBA history has hit greater than 42% on threes while attempting at least 11 per 36 minutes. He's done it 5 times, and that player is Steph Curry. Someone else is on pace to become the second player ever in this group, and that's Malik Beasley. So, like, if
Unreal.
yeah, someone like Steph is just in another stratosphere, obviously, as a shooter. Like we all know that, but like what Malik is doing this year is just it's just incredible, and I don't think you can expect him to meet that just because it's been so unreal. Like he's already made the most total three pointers in a season than he has through his entire career. He's at 261 right now, and there's still 15 games left. So like he has a chance to hit over 300 threes in the regular season.
Unreal.
So yeah, that's not going to happen that often, and I'd be pretty comfortable with saying like if he hits that threshold, there we probably won't see someone break that record for the Pistons for a very long
Very long
time.
time. Yeah, very long time. If I can nerd out for 1 second, I just want to implore, if any of our listeners are middle school or high school basketball coaches and you are trying to teach your team how to shoot off the move, right? Or just even off the catch, clip up Malik Beasley's footwork. It is picture perfect teach tape every time. Doesn't matter which direction he's going. Doesn't matter if he's going to his right where he's got to flip his hips all the way around. Doesn't matter if he's going to his left where he could shortcut it, but he doesn't. He gets his hips all the way around going even to his left. Doesn't matter if he's stepping back or just a straight off the catch, transition, any situation you put this guy in coming off any situation, teach tape footwork. It is beautiful. It is one of my favorite parts of watching Pistons games these days is his catch and shoot footwork. Please show that to your kids and have them attempt to mimic it, because it is some of the best left, right, consistent, great pace, right foot hits. His upper body explodes up like perfect every time. Incredible.
Yeah, some of the attempts that he takes, like you have no idea how one he even gets it off, and then it goes in a lot. So it's
He
just
gets it off because the footwork's so dang good. It doesn't matter how close the guy is to him. He can get the ball up quickly as a guy who elevates, by the way, on his jump shot. It's not a set shot, so it shouldn't be that fast, but it is because
he
his
gets
footwork
so high
is
in
10
his
out of
jumper.
10. Yeah, Malik Beasley shooting is so fun to watch. So fun to watch. All right, let's get to these last two questions now that I've nerded out for a second.
Oh no.
Should the Pistons be worried about falling to the 7th seed? This is from I Am the Big Cheese. He says the Hawks aren't far behind and the Pistons don't have a ton of margin for error. For context here, Pistons are 4.5 games ahead of the Atlanta Hawks. They are 5 wins ahead of the Atlanta Hawks as well, just in terms of raw record.
Yeah, I will say, like, it could definitely be a worry. And I say that because, well, first of all, I think that the Pistons will finish in the top 6. I think with the 4.5 game lead and the 5+ wins that the Pistons have, I think that's hard to make up over 15 games. But if you look at the Hawks schedule, they're playing the Clippers right now as we're recording on Friday night. They're down by 8, so in the second half. So maybe a loss, maybe a win. But if you look at their schedule after that, they have a few tough games. Like they played the Warriors, Rockets, Bucks, and Knicks. But other than that, like they have 2 games against the Nets. They play the Jazz. They play the Sixers twice. I could see the Hawks going on a little bit of a run. And we talked about this before we hopped on. Like they've been pretty decent after the trade deadline. And the Pistons certainly have winnable games. Like, I mean, honestly, I expect them to go out and at least have a chance to win no matter who the opponent is after that Boston game. But they play OKC twice. They end with a back-to-back against Milwaukee. They have the Knicks in there. But you do have some winnable games too, like the Mavericks, the Pelicans. So I think it might be closer than we think, but I I feel like the Pistons are pretty solid where they're standing right now, at least at number 6.
Yeah, I think they're solid too. I'm actually really not worried about the Atlanta Hawks at all, even though they absolutely have an easier schedule. And here's why. So 15 games left for the Pistons. All right, there are 15 games left in the season. There are 4.5 games in the record books ahead of the Atlanta Hawks. That means that all you care about are 10 games. Okay, and it's not even just 10 Pistons games. No.
Mm-hmm.
It is 10 games that either the Pistons win or the Atlanta Hawks lose in order for them to be mathematically unable to catch Detroit. We are getting now to the point of the year, and it's usually right about under 20, under 18 games, so we're well under that. But we're to the point of the year where the gaps that don't look all that far, right? 4.5 games doesn't sound like a lot. But when you think about it in that context, the fact that it really is just 10 games of leeway before they can't even mathematically catch up, it gets really hard to make up that type of ground on the back stretch of the year. Like, the reason we're still looking a little bit at that 4 seed is, hey, maybe that's possible for Detroit, is because it's only one game. It's just one game, right? That's just a Pistons win, Bucks loss. But the 4.5 gets, there's not a lot of, from the Hawks perspective, they do not have as much margin for error as you might think, even with that number being relatively small. So I'm not worried about this with the Hawks. I know they're playing good basketball. Trey's on a heater, but they do still have a losing record right now. And 4.5 games with 15 to go, pretty tough. I'm not worried.
And just as we were talking, the Clippers went on a 9-0 run and are now up 17 points on the Hawks. So
9. It's
it,
9
it
games.
yeah, it looks like the Hawks will. I'm probably jinxing stuff here, but it looks like that's another loss in their on their record already tonight. And yeah, we need someone. I mean, Bally Sports or FanDuel Sports Network needs to get the magic number going for the Pistons to stay in that top 6, because yeah, we're definitely in that range. But hey, after the run the Detroit Tigers went on last year, and I'm like, hey, anything is possible. But with how the Pistons are playing, like I think it would take a collapse for them to like fall out of it, and I am not expecting it from this team.
Yeah, agreed. It's not even, we're not even in control your own destiny part. Like, it would take beyond the failure of controlling your own destiny for the Hawks to catch the Pistons. Like you said, it would have to be a legitimate collapse, and that just, maybe we're being too rosy, but that doesn't seem like that's where this team is. Let's close out here since we're talking about the rest of the season. Gregory 1988 brings up, how do you think the rest of the season's going to play out? Make your prediction. What are the Pistons' record going to be here down the stretch in the last 15?
All right, so 15 games left. Like we're talking about, there are some tough games in there, but you never know. This team is competing with really anyone. I mean, Oklahoma City is tough. Like, something could happen, but I'm sort of chalking those up as 2 losses right now. And OKC is so far ahead that maybe when the Pistons go and play them a couple weeks from now, in the set when they travel to Oklahoma City at the start of April, like maybe OKC is sitting some players for the playoffs. So maybe they split those, but honestly, I am thinking it will be somewhere in the 9-6, 8-7, just for the sake of a prediction. I think they'll go 9-6. And hey, I'm hoping it would be fun if there was like that 4 through 6 chase came down to the final back to back that the Pistons and the Bucks play the last 2 games of the season. But a part of me like hopes that the playoff picture, at least like in terms of the Pistons perspective, where they sit, who they'll play, is wrapped up even before they play the Knicks before those final 2 games against Milwaukee. So maybe they can still play your guys, but like save some legs a little bit, because you're going to have a tough series coming up. It's going to be hard to get there. You also have a game against the Cavs in there too. But I just think the way that this team is playing right now, and especially after a loss to the Wizards, like you're going to have a tough test against Oklahoma City right out of the gate. But like they're gonna be hungry here and want to prove themselves after all this like good press they've been getting about the leap that they're taking. They're going to want to see it through the end of the season and just put themselves in the best position. So I do not think they're going to be under 500 in this last 15 game stretch.
Agreed. I was actually going to say 9-6 as well. So I'm thinking losses to the Thunder. That's twice. Pelicans once, because they play the Pelicans twice here down the stretch. Cavs, obviously. Bucks and Knicks, I think. So I believe that gets me to 6. That would put the Pistons at 46-36, I do believe. So where do you think that sits them here in terms of the standings? 46 and 36. And right now, I mean, the Pacers, the Bucks, they're all almost identical to Detroit at the moment. So the Bucks are sitting at 4, 37 wins, 28 losses. Pacers fifth, 36 wins, 28 losses. Pistons sixth, 37 wins, 30 losses. Where does 46 and 36 net them out?
It's crazy because I feel like that's a better record than we would be expecting, but I honestly think that they're gonna stay put in that sixth spot. I think the Bucks and the Pacers are both like I don't think either of them are gonna completely fall off either, anything like that. And then just the fact that both those teams do own a tiebreaker over the Pistons, I think that just puts the Pistons in a little bit of a hole there. So honestly, like what I'm expecting is sticking in this sixth spot, and we're just on a collision course for a Knicks Pistons first round series, even though I would love the entertainment of a Pistons Pacers playoff series if it did play off that way. But I'm sort of just expecting things to sort of stay in the standing that they are right now.
I pulled up the Bucks schedule. I'm trying to figure out how many games I think they lose. Here, I'll just go through it as I'm talking, as I'm looking at it. I suspect they're
They
going
have
to
a
lose
West
again to the
Coast swing, a big
Pacers.
West Coast
Yes, they
swing.
do. They've got a tough schedule, man. All right, so they got the Pacers, they
Yeah.
got the Thunder, Warriors, Lakers. Kings aren't an easy out. The Suns can surprise you, and they've got the Suns twice. They got the Nuggets game right baked in here at the end, the very, very end of a big West Coast trip. Like you said, they play the Knicks. The Hawks are a tough out. Pelicans aren't easy. Heat aren't easy. Timberwolves aren't easy. I'm thinking you're looking at, here, let me count it off. Pacers, Thunder, Warriors, that's 3. Lakers, 4. Give the Suns 1 win, that's 5. Nuggets, 6. Call the Hawks, so that's 7 losses. Maybe the Pelicans and Timberwolves pull one out. I mean, you could be looking reasonably at 9 losses there, which would put them actually at 38. And that backs what I was going to say up, which is I think that you've got Pacers 4, Pistons 5. Okay, I know the Bucks have gotten some impressive wins recently, especially that Lakers game. I know LeBron was out, but I don't know. I like the Pacers more than the Bucks, and I kind of think that in terms of the schedule, that West Coast trip is
Tough
nasty
timing for sure.
for them. They're scheduled down the stretch, so yeah, give me them at the 6th seed. Give me a Knicks Bucks first round. That's my bet right now.
Well, that gives us the entertainment factor we've been wanting for the
I
Pistons.
could
I
be,
will
I could be just wishing for it. I
no,
won't deny that that's part
it's
of it.
totally plausible. But and I mean, I will say just to back up your point further, the Pacers do have, I'd say, an easier schedule down the stretch, but they do end with a couple
And they're
games at
surging a bit
Cleveland.
right now.
Yeah, and they also play Denver, but other than that, it's a fairly easy schedule for them. So yeah, they could make a leap, and that could make it totally plausible, especially if the Pistons are able to take care of business.
What could be fun with this is if they get into a situation, well, like you mentioned, if the Pistons and Bucks get into a situation where those last 2 games kind of decide seeding,
Yeah,
that could be a lot of fun. If
yeah,
you're
and
in
it
if you're in a spot where
ramps
the
you up.
Pistons just need, yeah, it ramps you up for sure. But if the Pistons just need 1 win to be 5th, that's some high pressure stuff. We're gonna learn quite a bit about Ausar, Cade, all these guys. I'm really looking forward to this down the stretch. I think we're gonna see a lot of good basketball, and I'm sticking to my guns. I think Pistons 5th. They move up 1 spot here, and the Bucks end up falling 2. That's my prediction right now.
If that is how it works out and the Pistons have that opportunity, the first game in that back-to-back against the Bucks is at home, the last home regular season game of the season, like, gotta win that one for the fans. Like, that would be so incredible. The atmosphere in the playoffs is already gonna be incredible, but that would be a great, like, no better tune-up than that.
Yeah, and it'd be so fun. So fun to watch. Detroit basketball's back. This is gonna be fun. I think we could close it out here. We answered all the questions, so we are done. Thank you for everybody that was listening, that tuned in here with us live. And other than that, Blake, let's get on out.
Yeah, shout out to everyone who joined us live. I know we're recording late on a Friday night, so appreciate everyone who did join us live and listening to us after on your audio feeds. But reminder, Wes plugged it at the start of the show, but feel free to use our voice line, call the number, ask a question, hear your voice on the show. The number for that is 313-355-2717. Even if you don't have a question, if you just have a comment about something you've seen, it's definitely something for us to talk through, especially with so much to talk through these days. Would love to get as much involvement as possible. Reminder to review, leave us a comment on Spotify, wherever you're listening to the podcast. Subscribe to the Detroit Bad Boys YouTube channel if you haven't already. And special thanks to our guy Sean Corp, the managing editor of Detroit Bad Boys, for supporting the show. And shout out to you guys for the great questions and talking points tonight. We'll catch you next week, whether on your commute or live with us on YouTube. We can't wait to talk more Detroit basketball with you all.